Good morning, everyone. I'm Ann Christensen, and I'm a licensed prayer practitioner at Light on the Mountains. And now it is time to take a deep breath and go within. I know that there is one universal spirit, one infinite intelligence, one divine presence, one creative force. That force, that presence, that intelligence, that spirit is right here, right now, within each one of us and with everything in the universe. I know that everything that happens today is perfect and beautiful and wonderful for everyone. I am so grateful for that, and I'm grateful for this philosophy and for Ernest Holmes, who brought it alive and kept it going. And I give thanks for that and for all the people that make this community as great as it is. And I'm so grateful. And I would like to have just one moment of silence for the people of Maui. I know that they are receiving everything that can be given to them to help them go forward with their lives. I give thanks for that and for each one of us. And together we say, and so it is. I read Reverend John's blog 2 days ago. Well, yeah. And I've been working on it ever since. And it's been very helpful. And so I'm going to just read this morning from this thing called You, which always has good words that are helpful to everyone. It's my favorite reading. Okay. It's a little long. The universe is one vast system. All the laws of nature conspire to benefit mankind, but these same laws automatically protect the integrity of nature. It is as though nature said, "All right, little man, the game is yours. Play it as you see fit. I am going to serve you, but don't fool yourself. I'm going to reflect right back to you with exactness what you really are. If you don't like what is happening, I am not going to be disturbed. You are the arbiter of your fate. You are the captain of your soul. I have given you all. I have implanted freedom, individuality, and self-choice within you. Finally, through experience, you will learn the better and wiser way. I am love as well as law, beauty as well as reason, feeling as well as intellect. You are set on the path of self-determination. Your fantastic will, seeking good for yourself that you would not willingly give to others, may lead you up many blind alleys. You may meet with disappointment and chagrin, but I have also placed within you a compass and a chart. There is a course you may pursue which leads to happiness, to wholeness, to peace of mind and joy. Someday you will follow this path because I have placed a spirit within you which is ever seeking to guide, ever standing aside, permitting you partially to obliterate that spark which is part of myself, with a capital M, myself. Through all the rounds of experience, I am there. Someday when you sit down by the roadside, weary with struggle, you will listen deeply and you will hear a voice saying, "This is the path, follow it. Even then I shall wait, for you are you, and you cannot return to your Father's house other than as a complete and perfect individualization of capital M, myself. Always I shall be waiting. I shall not reproach you when you return. You will be welcome. The time of your return is in your own decision. It may be now or at any time in that vast forever which stretches before you. The freedom which the all-creative wisdom, capital W, has designed for man is marvelous beyond human perception. Life has given man an intuitive sense of things, It has permitted him to evolve through countless ages of trial and error to the day of his redemption, always knowing that this redemption is certain. But the timing, even of eternity, so far as man is concerned, rests in his present or delayed acceptance. It could be today or tomorrow. It could have been yesterday. We are living in a universal now, and this now waits on our acceptance. Many people naturally ask, if God is good, if God is love, if God is peace, why all this confusion? Don't you think that even God could not have done it any other way? Can't you see that even the divine will, in ordaining a man's destiny, was compelled to let man work out his own future? The more you think about this proposition, the clearer it will become. Do you think it would have been possible for it to have been any other way? You would not wish to be an automaton any more than you would wish to be a cabbage or a wave of the ocean or a knot in a tree. The greatest gift life, capital L, could have made to you is yourself. You are a spontaneous, self-choosing center in life. In the great drama of being, the great joy of becoming, the certainty of eternal expansion. You could not ask for more, and more could not have been given. Life will be to you what you are to it. Of necessity, there is a divine pattern at the center of everything. This is the Christ in you waiting your recognition. Somehow you must link your will, your thought, your intellect, your imagination, and your feeling with the divine present which is already there. Between this perfection and completion which already exists and your intellect, environment, and everyday experience, there is the accumulated experience of your subconscious mind. In reality, there is no such thing as your subconscious mind, for what the analyst analyzes and the psychologist psychologizes is not another mind. It is merely the accumulated thought and feeling of the ages operating through you. It is no more a mind apart or separate than the law of gravitation, which holds you to the earth. It is an individual law. All laws are universal and may become individualized. The thing that stands between you and the greater good is a thing of thought and nothing else. It is not reality that you must change, but your mental reaction to it. What is called the subjective state of your thought, the accumulated patterns, is automatically attracting or repelling. These patterns are automatically resowing their own seeds in the creative medium of mind. They will keep on doing this until you change them. They will do this without volition of your intellect. Your hope lies in the fact that you can change these patterns, perhaps not in a moment or a day or a month or a year, but you can change them. This is not a process of merely making affirmations or holding thoughts. It is a process of the gradual re-education of your whole mental reaction. It is a process of following the intuition back to the pattern, of feeling toward it, of accepting it, and of acting as though it were there. The whole thing is so simple that at first it seems impossible that it could be that way, yet it is. As you watch your mental actions and reactions, particularly those that are rooted in feeling, as you observe your expectations, you will feel impulses rising from within, habits of belief, patterns of thought, too many of which are negative. As you carefully weigh and measure the operation of this unconscious expectancy as it comes to the surface, you can detect what has to be changed. If you can accept that these impulsions are the thought patterns that have been laid down there by yourself or the sum of total human belief, you will realize that they can be changed by bringing in exactly opposite thought patterns. This will not be a question of struggling with the old patterns, so much as it will be one of gradually straining them out. You will notice, if you follow a few simple rules and methods carefully, that when thoughts of confusion persist in coming to the surface, statements of peace will neutralize them. When thoughts of fear assail, statements of faith will counteract their action. When thoughts of unhappiness well up from within, thoughts of happiness and joy will transmute them through the alchemy of spirit. First of all, you must arrive at peace of mind. It is only on the basis of peace that you can persist with absolute certainty. Peace alone, peace alone gives poise. There is an intuition within you which already knows that you are one with good, that your destiny is certain, and you must listen to this intuition, for it is the voice of God in you. Thank you for listening to all of that. Okay, now it is time for our affirmation for August. It's in this flyer beneath the colorful picture. And let's read it together. I am an individuated creation of the divine who embraces life with great passion, purpose, and an understanding of its unlimited potential. Okay. And now we get some good music.
Thank you, and good morning, everyone. Thought of the day. As Max and I were getting ready for the service this morning, I got a text from a friend, my friend Bronwyn, who wrote this. Hi, R.L., I don't know what you're doing right now, but if you could offer a prayer for my family, I would appreciate it. As you know, I lost a family friend the other day, and today I found out that one of my cousins, whom my brother and I were very close to, passed away too. It's been in a season of amazing success and adventure, but it's also been a season of great heartbreak. So, since I've involved you in this, I thought I'd share this with you. I'm sitting at Light on the Mountains. Our group will hold you and your family in our hearts. The power of prayer and of love is mighty. The first song that I'm going to sing this morning is called I Need to Be Still and Let God Love Me. The words say this: when there's trouble all around me and my soul cries out for help, when I feel that I'm falling even though I've done my best, when my burden seems so heavy and there are answers that I need, I know it's time to just be still and let God love me. So for Bronwyn and her family, and for all of us to be together behind them. Hi, John.
Good morning. Thank you, R.L. Thank you, Max. This morning to everyone. Morning to everybody at home. Now you can hear me at home. First of all, just it seems like natural disasters are happening more often, and certainly more frequent. And it is frustrating. And what can one do? There's really two things you can do. R.L. said, in a sense, or not, or Ann, you hold them in prayer, and we can send them financial support. That's kind of it. I don't know where to send that support yet. What I usually do when I do a little research is whoever is involved to make sure it's an organization that takes minimal out of for costs and things, and I'm sure there'll be some things popping up in Hawaii itself. So as you do your research, email me and let me know what you find. And if I find something out by our email that comes out on Friday, I'll include it then. They may not have pulled it together by then, but to give us a reputable way to go. And if everybody does a little, it adds up to a lot. And we think, boy, if I can't give $10,000, what's the use? Well, if everyone gave $10, it would be a lot of money even. Not to say that should be your amount, but even looking at the frequency of these physical disasters, say, yeah, I can commit to do this amount every time something that happens, it does make a lot. And yes, it's frustrating. What more can we do? We can't change the weather, singularity, so that's kind of it at the moment. And there may be other things that we can do that'll be communicated. And until then, those are the two things. So let's keep each other informed. So on a completely different note, let's talk about Barbie. Yes, yes, the master of transitions. First of all, this whole Barbie movie is such a lesson in our separation and culture that I have heard so many debates on whether it is a positive or negative thing from people who have not seen it. And that, and again, I'm not going to tell you to like it or not to like it with anything, but I just think it's an interesting commentary on our signs of our times that we would get on board being pro or anti-Barbie because of what somebody else told you about it. You may think it's the worst thing ever to be created. You may think it's the most creative and wonderful thing to be creative, but you won't know until you see it. I'm not even saying you have to see it. I'm just saying you can't talk about Barbie till you've seen her. So I think that should be, just use that as a Barbie lesson here. As you hear of hearsay or third stories of your friend of a friend of a friend, and it gets you all like about something, do you have firsthand knowledge? Did you take the time to venture into it a little bit before you spoke or possibly put your foot in your mouth? So I went to see Barbie. And actually, I'm glad that I did. And it fits into our theme of today talking about potentiality. So I might give you a couple spoiler alerts about Barbie, because maybe you won't go see it. First of all, it is exactly what you might thought it would be. It is fun, it is silly, it is eye-rolling, it is visually interesting, because it's about Barbie. But as often with children's stories or things, there are some deeper meanings to look at. And believe it or not, there are some interesting things that we can learn about potentiality with Barbie. And it took a while for that to set in. I thought, oh, we're just going to be in for a Barbie fest with this movie for a while. But I would say it's worth going to see as a cultural event. That's what I'll say. You may not like it, but it's a cultural event. So the Barbie movie is in 3 acts, and yes, I may be giving something away. Act 1 takes place in Barbie Land, I guess. Is that what they call it? Barbie World, Barbie Land. And it is pink and purple, and all the Barbies live in Barbie dream houses, and there are hundreds of different types of Barbies. There's the blonde Barbie, there's Barbies of all ethnicities, there's Barbie who's a president, there's Barbie who's a Supreme Court justice, there's Barbie doctors, there's Barbie EMTs, there's Barbie everything. You can be anything you want as Barbie. And I think that's a good thing. And I think that is probably a good message for our children, to say, what's the Barbie of your choice? If Barbie can wear a doctor's outfit, I can wear a doctor's outfit. I think that's really a positive thing to say. But here's the dark side of Barbie world. Kens are just kind of there for eye candy. They really don't have much purpose but to kind of hang out and look buff. And so that's the dark side of Barbie world. Barbies are wonderful and have choice and have interesting careers. Ken, not so much. Act 2, the revolt of the Kens. Kens take over Barbie world. Barbie dream houses turn into Ken man caves. And somehow they've mysteriously mesmerized Barbies to believe that they should just be serving iced tea to everybody and not be doctors anymore. So that's Act 2. Act 3, the rise again of Barbies. We need to get back what we lost. We need to put Kens in their place. And then there's like this sudden realization well, what if everyone matters? What if both Barbies and Kens can make the choices for their lives? What if it's not either or, but what if it's everyone? So I hope I didn't ruin the movie for you. Believe me, there's so much visual things going on that I would say just for that, you might want to see it. I mean, it really is a cleverly done movie. So what does that have to do with anything? First of all, potential. I like the idea that you can tell not only a child or anyone that they have unlimited potential, and that you can make any number of choices, and that all those choices are up to you or open to you. But the reality is that we create a world first with our own personal beliefs and collective beliefs that that's not so. So where do we get those ideas? Where do we get that idea of potentiality? Well, the first place we get it is from the environment we grew up in. The environment we grew up in, each of us, was a training ground to recreate that environment. Just really think about it. So if you were in a middle-classish kind of upbringing, you had, before you modeled, how to recreate that middle-class lifestyle. My family I grew up in was kind of middle-class, upper middle class, and again, I saw how that I could create that. If you grew up in a family that, let's say, was very low income, unfortunately, that may have been the only thing that was modeled for you. And it's not just about income, but you may have been in an environment where people didn't realize what options might be available. And it's not just about career type things. It's about the things that we take on our shoulders. We all have belief systems within us, things that, like Ernest Holmes calls a mental equivalent, that which we believe is possible for ourselves, and we partially get that from what's modeled for us growing up. I've had many people over the years say they had an aha moment that there may be something, a negative belief that they were struggling with or have been struggling with, and they realized one of their parents or a cousin or somebody that was influential in their life had that, and that you took it on almost unconsciously. So a first step is like, oh, my mom did that, my dad did that, and I'm doing that, and now I can choose not to do that. And of course, and it's even a little bit more complex than that, though. When things are ingrained, there is sometimes a path of just learning. So it starts with the intellectual realization, which is almost the easy part, to say, where did it come from? The not so easy part, and I hate to say something's not easy, but the next thing is, I have this thing. What process do I go through it to heal it, release it, to make it different, to have a different experience? And we do start. The intellectual is a good place to start, but I said it needs to go beyond that. My blog, I was writing about what I call I am statements, which are just like an affirmations. We all know about affirmations, don't we? But intellectually forming them is only the first step. That we have to come through our inner knowingness, a level of buying into it, of emotionally buying into it, and to a state of higher vibration where we're willing to take that on. And until we do that, it's going to be difficult to make that journey. So how do we get that, that sense of feeling, or as Ernest Holmes calls that, fire in the belly, as we make an affirmation or say a prayer to say that this is the choice I'm going to make now? It's all a process, isn't it? Anytime that you've had a major, let's say, turnaround in your life, whether you're aware of it or not, you did that. You somehow turned it to an intellectual thing, to an emotional, energetic thing where you just aligned yourself with that different way of being. So how do we do that? So as I was thinking about this week and thinking about Barbie, it's to think about, okay, well, how do we get to where we are? And to first think, well, what are some of the core stories I tell about myself? Both ones that work out well for me and those that don't work out well for me. What is the story that you tell about yourself to yourself? If something happens that you feel like you didn't succeed in something, It doesn't have to be work or business or something. Is there a story you tell yourself of why that happened? Like, I'm just not educated enough, I'm not skilled enough, I'm not creative enough, or there's just not enough to go around kind of thing. Is there a story that you tell yourself? And on the other end, if there's something that you've proven to yourself that you consistently do well, you also have a positive story. And it's not like patting yourself, I'm the greatest. It's like, I always do well at this. And we all have those things that oh, this is my safe zone. Somehow I figured it out in this area, that I just seem to know to go through the process. I have a high level of faith and belief in this, that I know when I say I'm going to do the next chapter of this one area that works for myself, I have a sense and from evidence that it's going to work out well. Not that I won't have mistakes, not that I won't have setbacks, but you've had the experience that it eventually works out for you. And in that portion, you have a positive story that you tell yourself. So even if you have a setback in it, you'll say, your story is, yes, I've had a setback, but I always come out of this eventually well. So what are the stories you tell in both camps here? And again, how can you, in a sense, shift that story if it's one that's not working out for you? Well, I think a good thing to do is to be inspired by the stories that work for us. So just even think, not only your story, I'm not going to have you raise hands and share here. Think of a story you took on from your upbringing that, even if everything else was a mess, that worked out well for you. That still does. I mean, just kind of think this over. We all have at least one. I know sometimes we put our parents as the most wanted by the FBI, but just put that aside. Just think of one story that you can go, yeah, they were a big mess, but look, I got this one thing out of it, and it has always worked for me. And I have a family story. I know I shared this a few years ago, and what made me think of it was Barbie. Because, there's Dr. Barbie, EMT Barbie, and Nurse Barbie. And my mother was a nurse. And I thought of my mother's story and how everything she did was, I think, the seed idea of why my parents' business was a success. And this is a time in the early 1950s when women didn't do that. Or at least we're told that they didn't have that level of importance. My parents moved from the Midwest, or Ohio, to California with the rest of the world after World War II. Everyone passing through went, boy, this is a really great place, and it doesn't snow. So they all came. And so my parents came with this great idea of success, and they did gain some great success. And part of our story as a family, they had a couple businesses that failed, but they said, we keep going on. And they opened a very successful business, as some of you know, which may weird you out. They opened a mortuary. They owned the building, and it was a big building with a mortgage. And times were financially really tough as you start a business. And again, big mortgage is 2 stories tall, huge, it's about 20,000 square foot of a building. And so my mom, even though she was partners with my dad running the business, decided to go back to nursing just to get money coming into the household. And at that time, had one of the eventually 4 children. And again, thinking 1952, first of all, you're owning a business and actively working the business. You have a child to raise, and now you're going to be the one to take it on to be the breadwinner by getting on the bus, going to downtown Los Angeles to General Hospital for 40 hours a week. And so when I think of this, though, this is a story I didn't hear till after my mother died. So it became my story much later. So I think of my mother sitting at the bus stop, which was in front of her business, in her nurse outfit, and I thought, how humbling that must have been. Again, your business is here, And you're sitting on the bus stop here because your business isn't making it yet. And you're taking the bus to go downtown Los Angeles. It's about a half an hour away by bus from where we lived to work full time and still childcare and all those, any number of things. And so the way that story affected me was in all the challenges I've had, and we've all had challenges, and I'm not saying mine are any more than less than anyone else's. When I don't know where to turn or how I'm going to make something work, I visually see my mother in her nurse outfit on the bus stop, sitting in front of her business, swallowing her pride to go to work. For me, that is a very powerful story. There's a lot of other things that didn't work out well for my mom. In fact, her life ended somewhat tragically. But at that time, she was so focused on, I don't think it was about success, it was on family. Our family is going to make it. At a time that a woman usually would not take on that mantle. So, and it's funny when I flash forward, like even about 10 or 12 years, there's a great picture of my mom in like 1965, and I'm not sure which one of my brothers and sisters have that picture. First of all, this is a time that they have achieved great success financially. Their business is booming. They bought the lot next door to the business and custom built a home. That's how quickly the financial things turned around. And so this is like such a perfect picture from the 1960s. My mother is standing in front of our aluminum Christmas tree with the glow wheel. And if you have one in the original box, it's worth several $1,000s now. And she is, of course, at that point, bleach blonde hair, like I said, closer to God, heaven, closer to God, or whatever that is. And she had, quote, just been given by my dad the epitome of success for the 60s, a full-length mink coat. Silver mink. Now, we don't do those things now, but for the times. But I remember people saying, isn't it great that, to my mom, that your husband gave you this coat? And I'm thinking, my mom earned every square inch of that coat. If it wasn't for her, there would be no coat. And to say my dad gave it to her, yeah. He wasn't sitting on the bus stop. He didn't do that. So what the purpose of my story here is that to take an I am statement to that next level of buy-in. My mother was totally bought in when she was on that bench. So we need in ourselves to transform our stories to get to that level of just determination that I am doing this. I am successful. I am open to guidance from the divine with no disclaimers. See, when we're fighting or struggling with those other stories, we have disclaimers. I am a receptive from the voice of the divine, but I'm not always the best at that. Or someone else is better than that for me. I should ask someone else. You stop at the buts. The purpose of I am is to say, I am fully available. I am fully present. I am fully open. I am fully available. That's the power of I am statements. And yes, there's a lot of doubt along the way. I can't imagine going through exactly what my mom went through. But the one thing? I have two sisters and a brother. My older sister, who I almost barely know, she's 11 years older than I am. We're all so different. We all have somehow embodied that story. We all have been amazing survivors. Even my older sister, being married at 16 and getting divorced and having like 3 kids and no education, she figured it out. I mean, when I just look at each of us, we just somehow embodied that story and said, yeah, this really is a terrible situation, but we're going to do this anyway. And I just see the power of that family story. So if there is even a sliver of a family story that you can take in yourself and remind you of, to expand for yourself, to bring you to that point. And we say we try to increase a sense of faith and knowingness and allow that story to do it for you. It's also interesting with my mom, and I think I've shared this before. She said she was a Catholic under protest. You couldn't have mixed marriages, so she had to convert. But when I was about 6, when you're a little kid, you're like, really like to snoop around and stuff. I found that my mother had a stash of Science of Mind magazines. And I didn't know what they were, but they somehow fascinated me. And I kept going back to them. It was even before I could read. Somehow they just kind of drew me there. So she knew a lot more than a lot of people gave her credit for. So as we leave today, try Barbie out. It's kind of interesting. What story are you telling yourself? And if it is a negative story, how can you give that story a different ending? So let's just take this within. So let us give thanks this morning on this amazing, amazing Sunday morning. Give thanks for where we live. Give thanks for our community. And give thanks for the power and presence of the divine that resides right where we are. It is our inspiration. It is proof of our unlimited potential. And we simply say yes. We step forward in faith and belief and understanding and allow with the power and presence of something greater than ourselves to help show us the way. So we give thanks for this. We give thanks for living in this. And as we give thanks, we simply let this go and say yes. And so it is.